Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the latest episode in our Keys webinar series. Delighted to have you with us. This is our monthly broadcast to our clients, wherever you may be. And today, a hot topic that's of interest to, I would say, all organizations, wherever they may be around the world. We're thinking about AI. We're thinking about the wonder and the worry of AI. Or if you want to put it the other way around, the worry and the wonder of AI. So we're going to be exploring the opportunities and the risks, the potential and the pitfalls, where people's minds are and where businesses' minds are as well. And to help us do that, I have a wonderful panel with me who are going to share their latest analysis with us. We'll start with Stephanie, who's in Chicago today. She's going to help us understand more about how customer experience can improve, powered by AI and other things as well. Jung Ming, who is in Toronto, is going to share with us new work which shows how new product development, the innovation process, is changing, and he's going to reflect on what that means for those of us working in research and insights. And then we're going to move to Adam, who's in Istanbul today, who's going to help us think through a little bit more about how the creative process can adapt in this enhanced AI-powered environment, if I may call it that. I'm talking to you from London. I'll start off with a real people-centric take on how individuals around the world feel about AI. As we go through today's session, do ask us questions. There's a special box for you to do just that. So type away and we'll look at the questions you have just before we finish. Also to mention that all of the slides we're presenting, with a couple of bonus ones as well, will be available to you after the webinar. So you'll have that resource to refer to and dive into any topics you want to explore more. So just to kick us off, let's think about how people feel. What do they see when they hear about, talk about, are asked about AI? And I'm going to start firstly in the workplace and thinking about the context of who we are and where we are when we're at work. I've got three different, let's say, occupations or work contexts. The first one being insurance and risk experts. Now, we talk to them every year as part of the work that we do with AXA. The risk report helps us understand where their mindset is, and where their mindset is that risks relating to AI are rapidly emerging. 55% of insurance professionals expressing concern on that front. When they think about risks in the round, those relating to AI and big data are now firmly in the top 5, and they express concern about regulation and the need for more regulation if things are to develop further in a responsible way. Different type of person altogether, corporate communications leaders responsible for overseeing an organization's reputation in the round. We also talk to them every year, and you won't be surprised to learn that we've been working to find out more about whether AI is a friend or foe to people in this kind of role. Firstly, what they tell us is, wow, this is going to absolutely transform the way businesses operate. 80% of them say we're set for a huge change. The second, thinking about the theme of our webinar, is they are concerned about whether, in this case, existing ethical policies in business are really where they need to be, given the mass adoption of AI and the new forms coming on stream now. They emphasize, for example, of the need to have a safe environment in which to work and build up these better decision-making process and faster decision-making process and all of that. And coming back to that point about it being transformational, also something in there which you may see in your organizations, because not everybody may be working with AI on the front line. For the corporate communications leaders, for example, they know it's big, but potentially it's the kind of thing other people elsewhere in their organization are doing. And that possible gap actually between theory and practice, where we are today, where we really are today, could be an issue for organizations. To illustrate that, just 1 in 4 of those corporate communications leaders say they themselves are using AI in their job. Now, talking about jobs, I'm talking to you from London today. I'm a British office worker, so let's see what they say. And what they're telling us is that they really are interested in learning new skills to prevent AI from replacing their role at work. We'll come on to this a little bit later. But what they also tell us is perhaps their employers may be lacking in terms of delivering the learning opportunities, the training experiences to help them develop their skills. And that's something, of course, we'll be tracking in the coming period. So who I am and what I'm doing is critical, but also where I am. And that's why countries are so critical. The context of different cultures, different governance regimes, different environments, different economies is so key. And we have a new study out today, 32 countries, really trying to understand where people's minds are in different parts of the world. So this is a general public study. We're pulling out today 6 things that we noticed that felt interesting in the data. And the first one is the wonder and worry of AI. We asked people whether they agree or disagree that products and services using AI have more benefits than they do drawbacks. What they tell us is, on balance, that they have more benefits than drawbacks, and by quite some margin. 55% agree, but 29% disagreeing. So by 2 to 1, you've got a real sense that on balance, this is a good thing, at least in relation to new products and services. In 29 of the 32 countries where we did the survey, there is agreement on balance, but there are 3 who are a little bit less sure. And one of them is the United States, the largest economy in the world, is one of the least positive, at least at the moment, when we talk to its people about whether there are more benefits than drawbacks. So we'll be watching that as well in the period to come. And still thinking about this wonder and worry vibe to the public opinion dynamic, we've got 53% of people telling us that products and services using AI make me excited, the wow factor, but the worry factor is there in almost equal number, 50% telling us that products and services using AI make me nervous. And we can look at that by mapping the different countries. And we've got 3 groupings that really struck us this year. The first grouping is what you might call the more positive countries. Many of them in Asia or Latin America, which are on balance pretty positive about what AI can bring. In many other countries, particularly in Europe, we're finding less excitement, let's say, about the prospects. And in the so-called Anglosphere, not just the US, by the way, we're finding a certain level of nervousness. So again, a reminder really that we have to go below the surface and try and pull out some of those nuances. But the wonder and worry of AI is our starting point. Our next point is about how it's changing our lives. 50% of people are telling us that products and services using AI have already changed my daily life. And it goes higher when we look to the next 3 to 5 years, with 66% agreeing that there's going to be more change in the period still to come. Again, we've got differences by country, but even the less wow countries, Sweden, Switzerland, Poland, they've got a majority saying that this is going to be a big change. So I think we can say international consensus on this point. Another point we noticed was about awareness. And many of us on the call will probably be feeling we're still learning about many aspects of it. And you see this when you ask the general public. If we ask them quite a general question, an easy question, let's say, I've got a good understanding of what it is, we're getting quite high numbers. Make it slightly more difficult, only a bit. I know which types of products and services use artificial intelligence. That goes down quite significantly. We didn't do a quiz or a test this time. I think we might come back to that, but I think we know that if we chip away and really ask people about the detail, they're not going to necessarily be au fait with all of the different elements. Why should they be? But awareness, certainly something just to flag. Another thing to flag, perhaps a reference to the times in which we live, is distrust of humans, not of computers, of humans. So when we ask people whether they trust people to discriminate, not to discriminate, I should say, or show bias towards any groups of people, look at the figures in turquoise, we get under half, regardless of how old people are. When we ask people whether they trust artificial intelligence not to discriminate or show bias, it's actually doing better. Probably deserves an entire study of its own, but certainly questions around trust are a feature of the public opinion landscape these days. We see it here. Concerns about disinformation, we do also see as well. We ask people what they think is going to happen over the next 3 to 5 years. There are some optimists, but there's also a significant number of people who are concerned about where we're heading on this particularly important point. And the final element, coming back to where we started, is about our work. What we noticed was a general sense that it's going to improve our work, our lives at work, probably. In the short term, we do have some concerns. Do you think the increased use of AI will make the job market better, worse, or stay the same? Well, on balance, for the moment, we've got 36% saying it's going to get worse. So there's concerns on that front. But big differences when we ask people to think more broadly. Here are the country map again. Take a look at the dark blue. When I ask about the job market, we're only at 31 better. We're moving quite significantly to the right with the numbers rising when we start to think about my job, and when we start to think about how much time it takes me to get things done, we're over 50% now saying it's going to get better. So I think we expect efficiencies, but a little bit of concern about what it means for us. So those are 6 things we noticed in the study that we've done this year. It's all available for you in the report, as I say, out now. There was also one thing that we felt we couldn't answer, one question which we're going to explore in more detail, which we wanted to share with you as well today. If you've been very eagle-eyed, you might have noticed some of the changes over time aren't very significant. It's broadly speaking a stable picture on our 2023 survey. And the question we're asking ourselves is, are we seeing, when we're looking at public opinion, more of a peak or are we actually looking at a bit more of a plateau? It could have peaked as people get used to AI, we're getting more comfortable. Perhaps some of those concerns that we have might start to fade away. Or it could be we're on a plateau, and as AI works into every aspect of our lives, perhaps worry will rise even more. So we'll see how that plays, but it's time now to see how things are playing out there in the business world. And with that in mind, we wanted to get into some of the detail with new analysis from our colleagues. And Stephanie, we're delighted to have you with us because you're doing so much work in this field of customer experience to help us think through what's changing and what to expect next. So thank you so much for being with us, Stephanie.
Thank you, Simon. I appreciate it. So yeah, as we talk about customer experience and AI, a lot of the principles that we've seen in customer experience for well over a decade continue to apply as we think about how to embed AI. So I'm excited to talk about this next evolution. And I'll kind of start with the ongoing battle that exists in customer experience. It's how technology solutions continue to revolutionize the way we deliver customer experiences and measure the quality of those interactions. The promises to achieve omni-channel experience delivery and personalization are the driving forces behind many CX digital transformations, and Gen AI is honestly just one of the latest enablers. But as these new technologies come into play, CX leaders are faced with new questions around how to balance the benefits of automation versus the value that comes out of relationships and establishing human connection. So when we think about technology in the customer experience, we know that it can power extremely positive omni-channel experiences. An example of this is when a digital shopper's browsing behavior indicates that they're not finding what they're looking for, and a chat intercept offers to connect the shopper with a live sales associate. But similarly, we've all experienced the annoyances of poor personalization. So where a brand's cross-sell or upsell prerogatives mean that they're promoting products or services to us that aren't timely or relevant. So it's very true that Gen AI has the potential to greatly enhance omnichannel experiences and the quality of personalization. But like any technology before, it also introduces new risk for experiences gone wrong. So as CX practitioners embark on a journey to embed Gen AI in the experience, it's important to look at Gen AI as a way to enhance experiences and not replace human interaction completely. There's very prominent ways Gen AI can play a role in the journey, but we have to be mindful that customers still expect that human relationship. And when it comes to a service interaction, for example, 88% of consumers still prefer to work with a human. So if brands flip the switch too aggressively to AI running everything, we run the risk of alienating customers. So we recommend a step change approach. What this might look like is using Gen AI as a service assistant to employees who still remain the face of the brand and benefit from the tools and the efficiency and effectiveness those tools provide, while still kind of giving customers that human touch that they're looking for. So we know from our recent global survey of CX practitioners that they're very much focused on making the best use of this Gen AI transformation. And I know from personal experience with my client conversations and those with my teams that everyone is very eager to capture the benefits of Gen AI, but they really don't know where to start. So our presentation today is really around that foundation of how to think about Gen AI within your customer experience. And we consider it in two buckets. The first is improvements to customer insight generation that power business decisions. And the second is improvement to customer experience design and delivery with the goal of higher operational efficiency, seamless omnichannel experiences, employee empowerment, and deeper personalization. So I'll jump into that first one. So on the listening and insights front, Gen AI is revolutionizing traditional customer feedback surveys. Surveys can become shorter, more conversational, and personalized to the customer's context, potentially enhancing response rates and the representativeness of sample, as well as overall quality. Beyond surveys, most companies have been gathering an immense amount of structured and unstructured data, and that's existing within CRM systems, other systems that capture interaction and operational data across the journey, financials, and of course, social media. But an ongoing challenge that brands have faced is stitching that data together and analyzing it in a timely manner in order to drive impact at scale. Now, Gen AI can actually bring these sources together in new ways, significantly speeding up the analysis process. And most important, it can provide salient insights tied to pretty much any business question. Further, Gen AI research assistants allow us to move beyond static reports and dashboards to an ability to converse directly with the data. This is great for drilling down into trends, pain points, uncovering nuanced opportunities tied to segments or parts of the journey, and so forth. And lastly, AI can actually be another person in the room, an assistant to brainstorm and develop innovative ideas based on customer insights. And this can push the boundaries of what's possible, really just push the boundaries of our own thinking. So think about this as just, having another seated person at the table, somebody who's knows as much context as you do, potentially more because of their ability to comprehend it all at once, and can help explore opportunities to improve the experience. On the delivery side, Gen AI has the potential to amplify the impact of experiences. So by synthesizing these massive sets of data for context, Gen AI can tailor experiences and content to individual needs and preferences. Gen AI is already being embedded in incumbent marketing automation platforms and journey automation tools, which is already supercharging scalable CX delivery. And by automating simple tasks such as answering repeatable queries or guiding customers through a purchase or booking process, employees are freed up to focus on more complex and high-value tasks that represent more meaningful customer interactions. This results in both cost savings and deeper relationships. And scaling content and creative to achieve personalization objectives has been an unbreakable barrier when it comes to objectives with customer experience and personalization delivery. But now Gen AI is the unlock to true one-to-one personalization. And while analytical AI has been used for years to predict churn and identify potential high-value customers, Gen AI is what can actually activate those insights and the strategies to retain and engage customers at scale. So while this potential for Gen AI is absolutely remarkable, success doesn't happen in a vacuum. The secret sauce is how brands combine AI with HI, or human intelligence. So we follow a framework at Ipsos for building strong brands that is centered around setting the right expectations that align to your brand promise, factoring in the context behind interactions that customers are having with your brand, and putting empathy at the heart of experience design. In the interest of time today, I'm going to focus specifically on the empathy principle. So Ipsos has performed extensive research behind the behavioral and motivational factors that tie to great experiences. And that's summarized in our Forces of CX framework. When applying Gen AI, whether to those insights use cases or to experience delivery ones, it's critical that these forces are not abandoned in the interest of scale and efficiency. Gen AI is known to have biases and hallucinations, and unchecked, it can result in unfair treatment or lack of certainty around the information that's being provided by the brand. Also, if Gen AI isn't provided with the right grounding or rules behind what it generates, status, control, belonging, and enjoyment could all be negatively impacted. This is again why we emphasize the importance of combining human intelligence with AI to catch that nuance and emotion that AI cannot achieve, at least not yet. So in terms of where to start, we say start small. Don't try to boil the ocean. Start with the areas of the journey that are in most need of improvement. Then use experience design principles to understand from your customers and employees what their needs are, their pain points are, and where there's the biggest opportunities to improve. Don't just assume that an analysis from several years ago around pain points is still a pain point today. It's important to continue to dig into that. And then consider where AI could play a new role. But be critical on what you expect to achieve. So for example, at Ipsos, we leverage AI in a number of our internal tools, and we apply them following a framework called Truth, Beauty, and Justice. And we use that to evaluate the integrity of our AI use cases in research and in our client experience. So whether you're using a framework like we have or one that you create for your own organization, it's really important to have those guiding principles of what AI means within your business. And then with clarity on the use cases, quantify the potential ROI. We use Roxy modeling to prioritize enhancements to CX based on their impact to the customer and the business. And then with that, with those prioritized use cases, start to build the blueprint of the future experience design. And this should reflect the evolution of the customer journey from both a front stage perspective, so how customers are interacting with the brand, as well as a backstage perspective, which is the employees and process and technology that are enabling the experience. And lastly, pilot, test, and measure iteratively. This is a very fast-moving space, so it needs to be tightly monitored and managed. Now, the good news in all of this is that all of those tried and true tools for customer experience still apply. So you're considering the maturity of your organization and competitive marketplace, you're infusing Gen AI across the journey design, you're designing net new experiences, and you're having a plan on how to measure that effectiveness. So as I said in the beginning, Gen AI is just the latest enabler of great CX, but all of these tools and processes that we follow as CX practitioners still very much apply to how we approach Gen AI. So this is just the tip of the iceberg, of course, and I'm always happy to go into more detail in the future. Thank you, Simon.
Well, thank you so much for that guided tour, both, let's say, the classic things we need to have always in our minds, which is on the slide now, but also AI. And I think it was important that you emphasize the difference between analytical AI and generative AI. And of course, on the generative AI side, it always feels so much of it feels so new. I mean, what's your advice to clients these days? Should they like dive in and invest, or wait and see what happens and choose what they do later?
So definitely get started now. I think there needs to be a mindset and kind of a cultural acceptance that Gen AI is constantly changing and fast changing. So any long-term roadmaps are probably liable to change. And with a culture of experimentation and testing and learning and getting started now, brands are going to have an edge in terms of how they embed Gen AI in their experiences. If they wait too long, it's not that they're not going to capture the value, because it'll surely be easy enough to catch up. And it's not about the features and functionality of AI that are the challenge, it's the cultural change and the change management in an organization in terms of how they're leveraging AI, that's going to take a little bit of time, and also just getting your customers used to those new experiences. So the sooner a brand gets started, the faster they're going to realize the impact.
Thank you, thank you. And so you're emphasizing exploration, testing things out, and seeing how things evolve, which is very much where we're going to go next, because Zhongming, an expert in innovation research, is going to help us learn a bit more about how new product development process and practice and maybe philosophy is changing. Zhongming, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Simon. And indeed, the new class of AI model is generative in nature, and therefore you can imagine it holds a lot of promises for innovation experts who are doing product development year in and year out. And they are, without surprise, some of the first that jumps into the application using AI to transform the innovation process. Right. While we all understand the revolutionary power that AI holds for innovation, we're also seeing that there is a lot of limitations, especially with off-the-shelf model. For example, we all know that off-the-shelf model are prone to misinterpretation issues and biases in the content that it generates. We also see hallucination and black box issues, not being able to trace the generated assets back into the training data. And more importantly for innovation, off-the-shelf models have not really lived a day like a consumer experienced life as we consumers have, or importantly, never worked a day as a market researcher and knows what market research in innovation work means. So off-the-shelf model is not really ready to be used just yet directly into the new product development role. If you make the analogy that you think of AI as the smartest college graduate that has been to all the classes, has just joined your team, then they need a on-the-job training before they can act as functioning members to work effectively in innovation jobs, right? So how do you connect the dots? To avoid the hallucination and increase traceability of the generated results, we think that it is really important that AI should always start the generation job from authenticated, fresh, and purposely collected consumer data. And then for each engagement to connect AI with the vast knowledge of classroom training to the reality of market research and product launch, we think that it's important to inject the innovation-specific knowledge to its thinking through prompt engineering that is carefully taken out by our innovations specialists. And at last, to shortcut this learning curve, what we are doing is we're providing our database of over 150,000 successful and failed innovations as learning examples for AI to summarize what are the lessons, the do's and the don'ts when it's coming up with new product ideas. Through all of these training steps, we're essentially infusing artificial intelligence with human intelligence, right? The human intelligence in this sense is not only the flesh and blood experiences that consumers have, but also the know-hows of innovation researchers, you and I, into this process. We call this humanized AI process InnoExplorer, and this is exactly what people have done, our clients have done, embedding AI into their innovation cycles in the last year to vastly accelerate the process from idea generation to concept writing to pack and product development. Throughout this very first year of exercises using AI to accelerate innovation process, we're seeing that the AI's promise on drastically cutting the cycle time is holding true, right? So the process of generating a new innovation mix is now reduced to days instead of what traditionally has been months. However, that is not the end goal. What is more important is that the infusion of AI and HI has now elevated the standards of innovation. We're actually seeing an increase in the quality of the innovation that is generated through this HI plus AI process. For innovation created with this infusion, we're seeing that on average, we have a 9% increase in trial potential and 10% increase in product overall liking if you compare that to using off-the-shelf model alone without the human knowledge injection. Not only is AI powering innovation cycles to go faster and higher quality, it is changing the game entirely. Through the year of practices and dozens of projects, we're seeing a tidal wave of changing coming in to transform the processes and redefine our job, our roles as insight managers, right? And we recently published this paper, which we invite you to take a read, but the key notion of this new era of innovation is a central highlight, as I would call it, is what we call innovation genesis. What this means is that generative AI is empowering the insight managers to completely shatter what was traditionally a funnel-shaped innovation process, integrating the development of mixed components into single steps, while converging innovation discovery, development, optimization, and post-launch tracking, which used to be separate steps, into a seamless cycle, right? So we call this new world fondly as the innovation genesis, because it's a new start, a new era. The innovation genesis holds 4 key promises that transform the innovation cycle. The number one, as we traditionally know, ideas, concept, packages, and products are developed in silos and in sequence, sometimes disconnected. The ability of AI to triangulate and generate means innovation mixes can now be generated in a single cycle. You could start from an idea, or you could start from a product formulation. AI can very quickly fill the mix with the missing pieces and have a complete product mix ready for you. Secondly, because AI can learn from consumer feedbacks almost in real time and provide optimization suggestions instantaneously, it means that the traditionally understood separate steps of product development and optimization are now coming together. With consumer data connecting the dots, we're now seeing innovation developed, optimized, and even validated in a single cycle, which means that it can drastically cut time while ensuring the coherence through these stage gates. Number 3, for the same reason, AI-empowered product development process no longer ends with the launch of the product, because as soon as the product launch, consumer feedbacks floods in, and AI are reading those feedbacks in real time, analyzing them, and feeding those feedbacks and improvement actions directly back into the manufacturing line, right? So the traditional divide of what we used to call pre-launch versus post-launch has become a little bit blurry because of that. As the result of all of this, insight managers are able to now see changes and trends in market much faster than before. Innovation cycle, as a result, have become a little bit more proactive and predictive. Compared to the past, we are more reacting to the market changes. Now we're staying ahead of the curve. So here's one example how this actually happens in reality. Now we have, in this case, a weed killer manufacturer who discovered a new product formulation, but they did not have the clear strategy of how they would market this product. How do they talk about it, right? So in the innovation cycle, in this case, started from a pretty unusual place, which is a product formulation. So what we did is a blind product test where consumers are asked to use the product and tell a little bit how they think the product is working, where do they see it fits into their life, and how do they think it will be used. And this is a good example to demonstrate to you how you start from a unusual place, but AI is connecting the dots to complete the rest of the puzzle and complete the development, optimization, and validation in one single cycle. Through those feedbacks to a product test, AI very quickly analyzed the consumer feedbacks and generated a few directions of the key claims you should put on to the consumer communication. And with that, again, in minutes, AI is able to write up a product concept based on how consumers think the product should be used and how they think the product will fit into their life occasions. Not only that, AI also improved and optimized the original pack design provided by the client based on the profile of those people who like the product, right? As you can see from the image on the left-hand side, the AI redesigned the package for a female-oriented bottle with a smaller distance between the trigger and the nozzle that is fit for smaller hands, right? And at the same time, an alternative version for male-dominated bottle design was also prepared, right? So as you can see that in the single project, in just a couple of days, we started from a very unusual starting point, a blind product test. We not only developed the full mix, including product formulation, concept communication, and package design, but more importantly, we optimized it in the same time. And then we submitted this mix to validation with real consumers to be able to validate this product to actually have great potential to break through, right? So AI and researchers in this case working hand in hand together to reduce the cycle time and make a breakthrough a potential innovation in a single project with all of these steps happening seamlessly. So with all these potential AI holds, what does it mean for insight managers? What does our job become? So again, a few predictions that we have. Number one, we believe that the insight role because of the simplicity and ease of using AI to create and optimize, insight managers' time will be liberated from tactical tasks. For example, managing multiple suppliers for package design, product formulation design, and concept writing, etc., to focus more on strategic tasks, such as ensuring the marketing mix fit with one another in a coherent way. At the same time, AI makes insight generation itself so easy and so fast, which means that insight manager's job shifts slightly from producing those insights to supervising and authenticating and filtering them, not only through the lens of authenticity, which is important, but also the knowledge that only the insight manager have, which is, are these product ideas or generated product mixes feasible, viable, and scalable within their organization. Number three, as insight managers are now powered with all of this ability that they used to not have, which used to be across different functional teams, we believe that the insight function will become a little bit more centric in a product development cycle in most of the organizations. And last but not least, due to the tendency for AI to hallucinate, insight managers' job would also spend a lot of their time now on the policy compliances, maintaining ethics and legality in their work, as well as managing the integrity of their intellectual property, right? So all of these are very exciting changes happening to us, and we're all very excited to embrace this new world, the new era of innovation, together with you. Back to you, Simon.
Well, thank you. And all of this is very exciting. And I love the analogy of the Gen AI being like a kind of top student, top university, went to all the classes, but doesn't know anything about the sector or the company. So that, what about training, we might come back to. I suppose my question on my mind is, with all of this change, what does it mean for our jobs? Those of us working in research and insights, do we need to go and look for another job now?
I think the reality is probably just the opposite. I think that as insight managers, we are being empowered by AI to do things that we were not used to be able to do. And our jobs become even more strategic and centric to the organizations, right? So the way that, however, it is high time, as Stephanie was saying, to embrace these new tools and these new tasks and these new skills, because we have a saying in the industry that AI is not going to replace us, but somebody who uses AI will.
Very good. Okay, well, on that point then, so we've been, let's say, using AI to build great customer experience, build some great new products. We now need to communicate them really effectively, and of course, advertising comes into play big time here. Adam, tell us what to expect next in terms of advertising and AI. And I see you've got the word risk and a question mark in your presentation, so looking forward to hearing your exposition.
Thanks very much, Simon. And indeed, I think, like with product development, as we just heard from Jong-Ming, we're in an exciting era for advertising. We're in an era where ads can now be created, placed, versioned, adapted, and measured in near real time at high volumes and at scale. And it is indeed AI that's making that a reality. If we focus on AI measurement, we are now in a world where AI prediction models can evaluate ads in minutes at the fraction of the cost of human response data collection. And this has many benefits. It can reduce time in the production cycle, it can reduce cost, and therefore it can increase productivity. Yet there is indeed, as you've mentioned, Simon, a question, and it's a question of, if we pursue these reductions in cost, in time, in the production and measurement of advertising, are we actually at risk of paying a price in terms of creativity and in terms of effectiveness? And what I'll do in the next few minutes is share with you some highlights of R&D work that we've done in creating our own prediction model, Creative Spark AI, and how we navigate those considerations to best harness the power of AI whilst also retaining that creativity and effectiveness. And I've just referred to creativity, so I think it's incumbent on me to describe what I mean. It can be quite a loaded word in advertising, with many definitions from many people. We have our own view on creativity in advertising at Ipsos, And we have that view based on data and observation. What you can see on screen here is the outcome of an analysis of thousands of ads in our database, where we look to identify the types of experiences that are inherent to good quality advertising. And they're represented on screen here within what we refer to as the Misfits Mindset Framework, which is a creative experience such as entertainment that's inherently talkable, creative ideas, so new ideas and thinking, and last but by no means least, empathy and fitting in. So that sense the advertising is representing the people that you're looking to appeal to. And we see in our analysis that when you connect these three experiences together, when you get them right, you can get to plus 20% short-term sales lift potential from the same media investment, often the same production investment, but just in delivering a good quality experience. And in establishing at least our view on what creativity means in advertising, I think we could probably all agree that it's inherently quite human, using words like empathy, new ideas and thinking, human ingenuity. And I think there's a question around if AI can best represent the quality of those experiences in evaluating ads. And we'll get to some considerations we have in that respect. But before we do, let's go back to the opportunity that AI presents. And it is really a great opportunity that we need to embrace. If we think about human response data collection as it is today in ad testing, and by the way, the data set I just showed you was from human responses, so we can see that creative essence there in those human responses. We can see that there's a situation where typically TV ads, linear broadcast ads, will receive a creative research investment simply because the media cost per ad is quite high, the risk is therefore high, therefore the research makes sense. But when we get into digital and social, so YouTube skippable as an example, or social video feeds such as Instagram, the media cost per asset can actually be quite low relative to the research cost, and the equation doesn't quite make sense in the time, effort and budget to do research, to select and optimize the best ad to get to those sales lift effects. And this is then the role and opportunity of AI, because with prediction models, we are now in a world in which we can evaluate those ads, especially in social and online video, in minutes at a fraction of the cost of human data collection. And therefore, being in a world where there really shouldn't be a reason why an ad doesn't have some form of evaluation to enable business decisions and get to successful advertising outcomes. So if that's the opportunity, what might be the considerations in using these models to their best effect whilst retaining creativity and effectiveness? I'd just like to briefly walk through how these models work in order to then answer that question. This is the process that we go through in developing our model, Creative Spark AI, and how it works in terms of evaluating ads. With the model, we start with a sample of our database, so 18,000 cases, a robust case corpus to train a model, and we also, of course, have the ads. And with the ads, we process them through two types of AI software. One is analytical AI. This software deconstructs ads frame by frame and enables us to have access to objective information, such as colors, such as if people are included, a range of different objects. And we also upload the ads into generative AI language models via our enterprise solution, Ipsos Facto. And by uploading the ads into generative AI, we're asking it to describe what is subjectively likely happening in the ad. Is humor there, emotion there, etc. And it's with these features together we train the model. We look to the model to identify patterns that are consistent with higher, middling and lower performing ads, and when we have a minimum prediction accuracy that we're satisfied with, we deploy the model, as we have done, into our e-commerce platform Ipsos Digital, and then anyone can evaluate an ad in minutes for a fraction of the cost of traditional human response research. So there's, again, real productivity gains to be made. That's how it is done. But what about then the considerations and the use cases? Well, coming back to analytical AI, we get thousands of variables from this software across visual, audio, text-based variables. It's very rich information, very useful for a prediction model. But what we found in our first baseline model when we were going through the development is that this information can have limitations. That although the prediction accuracy of the model was of a good level, it actually was slightly less accurate amongst ads that deliver in the human response test a strong empathetic experience with new ideas and thinking. And that gave us a moment for pause, because if on the one hand, successful, effective advertising inherently delivers empathy and new ideas and thinking, how can we on the other hand then rely on a model to at scale evaluate ads when perhaps an evaluation wouldn't take place? And this is where generative AI comes in. When we upload ads into the language models via Ipsos Facto, when we prompt it in the right way, using our expertise, our human intelligence about what makes effective advertising, and we emerge with variables such as humor, such as emotion, such as personal relationships, storytelling, the beginning, middle, and an end of a story, we then have more information. And the question is this subjective information, these subjective features, do they enable the model to become more predictive and mitigate those risks and considerations I mentioned earlier? Well, the short answer is yes, we do see an increase in prediction accuracy, and this gives us an encouraging signal into how we can improve and optimize these models, how we can use latest cutting edge technology and human intelligence and thinking to feed the model, to nurture it, to get towards a step to humanize it. And in doing so, give ourselves more confidence in the decisions that we make based on its evaluation. And this is really our vision for using AI in advertising research. Yes, there are productivity gains to be made in terms of efficiencies of time and cost reduction in production and research. But moreover, if we get these models right, if we treat them in the right way and use them for the right use case, we can bring AI, artificial intelligence, and HI, human intelligence, together and actually fuel effectiveness as well as efficiency. So those are the highlights we have to share with you today, and back to you, Simon.
Well, thank you, and that effectiveness and efficiency, the point well made. Many of us on the call will have watched the series Mad Men, of course set in a historical context. What would happen if Don Draper were with us today watching this presentation? Would he be outraged at what these dastardly computers are now doing, taking away his creative flair?
Yes, I think Don wouldn't be very happy with what we've had to say, or some of what we've had to say today. I'm reminded somewhat actually of a scene in one of the episodes where he was pitching the Heinz campaign that probably many are familiar with. It became an actual campaign of the print ads with the food and the slogan of "Pass the Heinz" and no use of the actual product visually in the ad. And in fairness to Don, that would have been in a situation in which an AI model wouldn't have seen that kind of approach before, wouldn't have seen those new ideas and thinking, and therefore may not have appreciated and valued them as much as they possibly could have been, and could have been identified in human research. And I think this is the point, is it's about the selective use of these models. If, for example, Don or Heinz came to us about that campaign, our creative excellence practitioners probably, in fact definitely, would have advised on human response research, probably something more qualitative, exploring the idea of the campaign and thinking before we get to execution and versioning. So again, I think it's about the right use case for the model and human research at the right stage, and I would hope Don would accept that answer.
Let's hope not. So let's hope you would have. If any metaphorical Dons are here, please put them into the chat, and we'll take your question possibly after the session. I'm going to come back to today and the present day from Don. Great though he is. Stephanie, I know you've been doing a lot of work more broadly about thinking about how organisations change, and how can you get colleagues and employees to feel positive about the next steps, and I know that's a topic you've been researching. I think interesting thought to reflect on today.
Yeah, absolutely. And within the US market, I'm actually driving that change effort internally. So many thoughts on that. It can be an entire webinar, but I'd say the key is to involve employees. So give them access to tools. A lot of organizations, are blocking access to Copilot, blocking access to other Gen AI capabilities. And it does make sense from a security perspective, but getting those security barriers sorted out so that employees can start to access tools and play around with them is really key, because that user base is going to come up with some of the most amazing innovations around how your organization can leverage new technology. So it's important to get that out into the hands of the field, so to speak, and let them play around and let them see where it changes their workflows, where it changes their day-to-day, where it can change the way that they bring value to the organization and to customers. So it's definitely not something to manage exclusively from the top or manage as a kind of back office technology project.
No, that's interesting, because I think it came up a little bit in the corporate communications people, because they were talking about the safe environment, but I think they were probably talking about it in a very macro way. And I think what you're saying there is actually, if you can get it in a micro way to be able to feel that we can play around and practice and not make a mess and not do anything wrong, we'll be in a good place to do things better. Okay. Well, we'll pick up on that. And actually, John Ming, we left you when we were thinking about the new recruits that is generative AI, who's been to this great university and done all of the courses. I've got a question about how do you find the data to train the model that you were or the framework that you were sharing with us, and what tools or what platforms are you using to do that?
Sure, that's a great question. The key here is that the data that the insights are generated from should be relevant, and it should be timeless, and it should be representative. Under those three principles, though, we use a multitude of data sources. Sometimes it's social data, search data, e-commerce data. Sometimes it's plain and simple survey data. Survey data has its advantage because it's very simple to achieve, and you can get the context and the geography and the consumers that you're talking to exactly right. So we will evaluate what is the right starting point for each project, and then source data accordingly. But the key here is that it has to be authenticated, and we actually sometimes ask AI to authenticate. Hey, here's an insight you generated. Can you go back to the training data that you learned this from and show me who said this? Where does she live? What's her age? And does she use the brand that my client is commissioning? Right, so on and so forth, as a means to force AI to give us the right answer and the authenticated answer. So the key word here is traceability.
Traceability, okay, and also time it out and doing, if it were a student, weekly tests rather than waiting till the end of the year kind of thing.
That's right.
Plugging away. Okay. Now, actually, the training thing. Our last question actually will be for you, Adam. We also have our like sports coaches with our, standing on the pitch. But a question for you actually, perhaps similar and different to John Ming's question. But thinking about the Don Draper one, the ads that worked in the past versus the ads that can never been done before, and they'll be amazing. How do you get that balance right in terms of training the model? Because presumably you could overtrain it and it just looked backwards, and undertrain it and it doesn't know anything. Do you have any sense of how that's shaping up?
Yeah, it's a really important consideration. So whoever asked that question, kudos to them, because it's a good question. And the answer is it's about context, and it's about applying our human intelligence to give thoughtful information and features to the model. I've mentioned generative AI in this short presentation, and that can describe what it thinks might be new and different in the category versus the reference points that we've given it. But there are also other ways that we can infer uniqueness and difference, such as calculating via the objective features, those visual features, the profile of the test ad versus all the other ads in the category. So I think as long as we apply our human intelligence, our knowledge, at Ipsos, we know a lot about what makes effective advertising, and we impart that on the model to give it the best chance to appreciate the value of those kind of experiences. And I think we'll be in a better place. But at the same time, I think we also need to manage our own expectations. If we have, for example, a Heinz campaign that Don put together, we need to make a judgment as to what research tool and scope would be best suited to explore what type of execution. And that's why we see AI models, the value of them is more about scale of data, looking for relationships and features for best practice, but also versioning adaptation. If we have a brand new campaign, a new idea and thinking, human research is still absolutely fundamental to really understanding if that will be effective.
So trust ourselves, trust our intuition, and actually, yeah, don't get constrained, let's say, by all the amazing things that computers can do.
Indeed.
Thank you. Well, thank you to all of our speakers and to everyone who's been with us today. As we mentioned, we'll be sending you the full decks for you to explore and dive into it in more detail. So we really appreciate your company today, and we hope we can see you in a month's time. We're going to be looking at generational myths and the demographic realities of, in particular, preparing in so many countries around the world for a population that is shrinking rather than increasing. So we hope you can be with us next time. But for now, thank you to our speakers. Thank you for being with us, and have a great rest of the day. All the best to you all.
Thank you. Bye.